Hi, I'm Cliff Jacobs from the National Science Foundation. We're here with Data Brokering Group Concept Award, and we're going to get some information about what they've been working on. I'm going to ask them to answer the following questions. Who are you? And what group are you part of?
I am Sirijota Singh Khalsa from the University of Colorado, and I'm part of the Concept Award that is exploring brokering. The team consists of 2 other people at NSIDC, as well as folks from the private sector, and we have a large suite of national and international partners.
What problem are you working on?
We're working on enabling interoperability, cross-domain and multidisciplinary interoperability by a mechanism known as brokering, both a technology and a conceptual approach towards mediating the interchange between resources and users of those resources.
So why don't you explain a little bit what your poster says and what you've been up to?
Okay, so our charge is to explore this brokering technology as an element of an overall cyber infrastructure. So one thing that we're needing to, that we saw as really important, we realized, was to get the community to understand what brokering is. Brokering ultimately should operate behind the scenes and not really require users of the service to be even aware of it. But since the word brokering is rather generic by nature and could be used to describe, financial transactions, we realized we need to make a clear definition and clearly spell out how we envision brokering working for EarthCube. So we developed, first of all, a brokering manifesto that lays out the challenges and the assumptions, and then finally the principles and the definition of brokering, so that for the community to examine and feed back on. So brokering, I should say, then, is meant to be a middleware. It's meant to be an element of the overall cyber infrastructure that connects user applications, and these can be individuals looking for data through a browser or a desktop tool or a handheld device, and then all the different resources that are meant to be part of what should eventually be accessible through EarthCube, and that can be data sets, services, model components, semantic engines. Lots of these different resources need to be accessible. And so if it's just kind of out there in an amorphous cloud, it's very hard to discover and utilize those different resources. So a brokering framework, and then those resources can be very heterogeneous in nature. That's the the crux of the problem, is that if you look at all of the geosciences, it's extremely diverse data sets, very, very different ways of describing, encoding, and making available these data, and diversity in size, so that a user that needs to access those different things finds that they have to understand the protocols and the methods, access methods in each of those communities. So the idea is that the broker handles those interactions for the client applications or the individual users themselves. So what I'm trying to get across in this poster, and one of the things that we found we needed to clarify, was to distinguish what brokering is versus a federated solution to enterprise management, where within, and the way I've illustrated that here is each little cloud is meant to be a different community of practice. Either a project or a whole discipline that has worked out the ways of sharing data amongst themselves. So this then involves common data models, common protocols, common metadata standards. These are the things that allow that community to share and discover data. But increasingly it's found that consumers need to access data from other domains. And so that's where the challenges is, because this sort of interoperability is achieved by agreeing to common standards and common protocols, but when you cross into other disciplines, then you have to change the way that you access and understand those data. So the idea is that eventually the brokering layer mediates these interactions and removes the need to understand, to speak the language of each of these different infrastructures. And then you can include individual data users and providers there, because the broker, as long as it's one of the standards that's understood, that it understands by working with the communities, then can access individual resources through that common infrastructure. So so I'll just jump into the issues that we're facing. So clearly, if this is going to serve this function of providing access across these different domains, it has to be there. It has to be robust. It has to be sustained and maintained. And as these communities evolve, they're going to change the way they do things. And so the broker needs to be able to track and conform and adapt to those changes, as well as the technologies that become available. And our project, since we include in this cloud this semantic interpretation of the different data sources and the ability to chain workflows, a lot of these other activities can fall under the brokering framework. So it's really vitally important that we work with the other people developing services for EarthCube to see how they can fit into this infrastructure in a way, again, that obviates the need for the different communities to change the way they do business in terms of how they expose their data. Governance of the infrastructure, deciding what gets brokered and what elements of it get developed is a big issue. We're working hard through our partnerships, some of which are indicated there, in seeing that we're testing our ideas against a diversity of a broad cross-section of the geoscience community. And then, as I mentioned, technology is going to continue to evolve at a rapid pace, and therefore it needs to be very adaptable. So this obviously is a major undertaking, and the resources are going to be necessary to make this viable and sustainable. But our approach is to start with small projects by looking at given communities, answering specific use cases, seeing how that process can work to achieve their goals, seeing what sort of impediments we encounter, and what sort of level of effort it is to make those pairings, to know what it's going to take to scale it up to be an EarthCube-wide capability.
Thank you very much. That was a great interview, and I will be putting this on the web.